Knowledge is often misunderstood. People imagine it as a pile of facts, like coins in a jar. The more you collect, the richer you are. But knowledge doesn't work that way. Facts sitting in your mind, untested and unquestioned, don't compound. They just weigh you down. What really compounds is understanding, and understanding only grows when you question what you know. Most of us were trained by school to memorize, not to question. You got rewarded for repeating the right answer, not for asking a better question. But in the real world, the right answer changes over time. The truth of yesterday might be the error of tomorrow. To keep compounding, your mind has to stay fluid, flexible, willing to let go of old truths in light of new evidence. Imagine two people starting from the same base of knowledge. One memorizes and accepts everything he hears. The other asks, why? And what if this is wrong? 10 years later, the first person has the same set of answers he started with. The second has refined his mental models, corrected his errors, and built explanations that connect across disciplines. One is static, the other is exponential. That's the difference between dead knowledge and living knowledge. Compounding doesn't happen automatically. Money doesn't compound if you leave it under your mattress, and knowledge doesn't compound if you just carry it in your head. It compounds when you put it to work, when you stress test it against reality, when you allow it to clash with other ideas. Every question you ask is like reinvesting your mental capital. It creates new connections, new insights, new returns. The act of questioning serves two purposes. First, it protects you from delusion. Humans are wired to believe too quickly. We adopt the beliefs of our parents, our culture, our peers. Without questioning, you are just a copy of your environment. By questioning, you peel away assumptions, you test the foundations, you find what's actually true for yourself. Second, questioning multiplies possibilities. Every time you challenge an idea, you don't just risk losing it, you gain alternatives. One path becomes two, then four, then many. That branching tree of options is where creativity is born. Consider the most powerful advances in science and technology. They didn't come from people who memorized the textbook. They came from people who doubted the textbook. Einstein didn't accept Newtonian physics as the final word. He asked, what if space and time are not absolute? Darwin didn't accept fixed species as given. He asked, what if they evolve? Each breakthrough was a result of questioning what everyone else assumed was unquestionable. In your own life, this principle applies to everything. Don't just memorize how people make money. Ask why it works, and under what conditions it stops working. Don't just adopt a diet or a belief system because someone successful follows it. Ask if it fits your biology, your psychology, your circumstances. Don't just absorb information from books, podcasts, and gurus. Ask how it connects, how it contradicts, how it might be incomplete. That's how knowledge compounds into wisdom. There's a danger in unquestioned knowledge. It becomes dogma. Dogma is like frozen capital. It doesn't flow, it doesn't grow, it just sits there, defended by pride and fear. Questioning melts it. It turns static knowledge back into liquid understanding that can move, adapt, and expand. If you cling to your answers, you become brittle. If you hold your answers lightly and keep asking better questions, you become anti-fragile. Compounding is also about time. A small insight questioned and refined over decades becomes a world view, a philosophy, a lens that lets you see what others miss. Most people look for quick answers, instant certainty, but if you choose the slower path of asking, doubting, refining, you build a compounding engine in your mind. Over years, it separates you from the average. While others recycle old truths, you keep discovering new ones. The irony is that the people who question the most end up with the strongest convictions. Because their beliefs have been tested, burned, reshaped, and proven in the fire of reality, they don't hold second-hand opinions. They hold knowledge that's alive, resilient, and deeply their own. So the lesson is simple but not easy. Don't just accept knowledge. Interrogate it, Stress it, break it, and rebuild it. Treat every idea like an investment. Make it earn its place in your portfolio of beliefs. That is how knowledge compounds, not by collecting more answers, but by asking better questions. And the compounding effect is profound. If you question one idea today, you might gain one small insight. If you do it every day over years, those insights connect, amplify, and explode into wisdom. Eventually, you'll see the world differently, not because you memorized more, but because you questioned more. That's the path to understanding. That's the true compounding of knowledge. Human progress doesn't come from getting everything right the first time. It comes from noticing what's wrong, fixing it, and moving forward. Every step we take as individuals and as a civilization is built on the back of mistakes we dared to correct. The world doesn't reward perfection, it rewards adaptation. Most people are paralyzed by the fear of being wrong. They treat errors as failures, as stains on their record, as proof they're not good enough. But in reality, errors are feedback, they're data, they're signals from reality that something isn't working. The only true mistake is ignoring that signal. The faster you recognize and correct, the faster you grow. Progress is nothing but a series of corrected errors. Think of how nature evolves. Evolution doesn't plan. It doesn't design the perfect creature from the beginning. It experiments blindly, it makes endless errors, and through selection, the better adaptations survive. Over millions of years, those small corrections stack into the extraordinary complexity of life. Without error correction, there would be no evolution, no progress, no survival. The same principle applies to human knowledge. Science is not a collection of eternal truths. It's a process of discovering where we were wrong. Every scientific revolution replaced an old, incomplete explanation with a better one. We once believed the Earth was the center of the universe. We corrected that. We once believed illness was caused by spirits. We corrected that. Each correction unlocked new possibilities. If scientists had been afraid to admit error, we would still be living in the dark ages. In your own life, error correction is the foundation of growth. You will not make the right choices from the beginning. You'll start businesses that fail, relationships that break, habits that don't serve you. That's inevitable. What matters is whether you learn from them. If you treat errors as the end of the road, you'll quit early. If you treat them as temporary feedback, you'll keep iterating until you find what works. Progress in business is exactly the same. The best entrepreneurs don't start with perfect products. They start with rough ideas, test them against reality, fail fast, and adjust. Each version gets closer to product market fit. The company that learns the fastest outpaces the one that tries to be flawless from day one. It's not the absence of mistakes that wins, it's the speed of correction. Error correction also requires humility. To admit you're wrong is to let go of your ego. Most people resist correction because they don't want to look foolish. They protect their image instead of pursuing truth, but progress demands the opposite. You have to be willing to look wrong today to be right tomorrow. If you cling to your pride, you stay stuck. If you embrace your errors, you move forward. There's also a compounding effect in correction. The more errors you make and fix, the sharper your judgment becomes. Each correction not only improves your outcome, but also trains your intuition. Over time, you stop making the same mistakes. You begin to see patterns earlier. You become faster at spotting where things are off. The errors shrink, the corrections accelerate, and progress compounds. Consider relationships. No one knows how to be the perfect partner from the start. Every relationship exposes flaws in communication, expectations, or habits. If both people are willing to correct those errors, the bond grows stronger. If they deny or ignore them, resentment builds and the relationship collapses. Correction is the difference between a love that deepens and one that fades. Even personal happiness is a process of error correction. We chase money, status, pleasure, thinking they will fulfill us. Often they don't. That's not failure, it's feedback. Each disappointment teaches us to refine our definition of a good life. Over time, if we pay attention, we correct our course toward meaning, peace, and inner satisfaction. Progress through error correction is universal. It applies to nature, science, business, relationships, and personal growth. It's the hidden mechanism behind every advance, but it requires courage. Courage to face reality instead of comforting illusions. Courage to admit, I was wrong. Courage to try again, knowing you will be wrong again, but less wrong than before. If you can make peace with being wrong, you unlock freedom. You stop fearing mistakes. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop obsessing over flawless plans. Instead, you move, you act, you test, you learn. Each correction makes you stronger, smarter, and closer to the truth. Progress doesn't come from avoiding errors. It comes from embracing them, dissecting them, and correcting them. The people who advance are not the ones who never stumble. They are the ones who stumble, notice, and get back up quickly. The secret is not perfection. The secret is iteration. So when you find yourself wrong, and you will often, don't hide from it, don't deny it, don't freeze. Ask what reality is trying to tell you. Make the correction. Take the next step. That's how growth happens. That's how progress happens. That's how the future is built, one corrected error at a time. Freedom doesn't come from wealth alone, or power, or status. Those are temporary forms of security, easily taken away. Real freedom comes from understanding, because when you understand, you're no longer dependent on luck, on authority, or on blind tradition. And the way we reach understanding is through creating explanations. An explanation is different from a fact. Facts can be memorized, repeated, and forgotten. Explanations are alive. They tell you why something works, not just that it works. And once you know the why, you can recreate it, improve it, adapt it to new situations. Without explanations, you are a consumer of other people's wisdom. With explanations, you become the creator of your own path. Consider wealth. Someone might give you a stock tip or a business strategy. If you follow it blindly, you might get lucky once or twice, but you're not free because you don't understand why it works. You are dependent on others. On the other hand, if you create your own explanation of why businesses succeed, why markets move, why customers buy, then you don't need anyone's permission. You can build wealth repeatedly. You're not gambling. You're operating from comprehension. This applies to science, too. Before explanations, people lived under the tyranny of superstition. If the crops failed, they thought it was punishment from the gods. If someone got sick, they blamed spirits. They weren't free because they had no explanations. They had rituals, traditions, authorities, but no understanding. With the rise of science came explanations. Disease is caused by microbes, planets move by gravity, crops fail because of soil and climate. Suddenly, humanity had leverage. We could prevent disease, navigate the stars, grow food more reliably. Explanations freed us from ignorance. On a personal level, explanations are what transform suffering into growth. Pain without explanation is just suffering. It crushes you. Pain with explanation becomes a lesson. If you lose money, you can despair, or you can ask, why did this happen? What was flawed in my decision-making? What can I learn? By creating explanations, you turn setbacks into wisdom. That's freedom. The freedom to not be chained by events, but to extract meaning from them. Explanations also liberate us from dogma. Every society is full of rules, customs, and beliefs handed down unquestioned. People follow them because that's how it's always been. But if you create your own explanations, you can see which traditions are useful and which are just inertia. You stop outsourcing your thinking. You stop living someone else's script. You become sovereign in your own mind. This doesn't mean rejecting everything. It means understanding everything you choose to follow. If you believe in honesty, don't just believe it because someone told you to. Create an explanation. Honesty saves energy, builds trust, and scales better than lies. Now you're not following honesty as a rule. You're following it as wisdom. That shift makes it yours. The beauty of creating explanations is that they scale. A single explanation can apply across many domains. If you understand incentives, you can explain why businesses act as they do, why governments behave in certain ways, why individuals make choices. That one explanation gives you leverage in navigating multiple areas of life. Freedom is not about having no constraints. It's about understanding the constraints so well that you can work around them, bend them, or transcend them. Explanations are the maps that show you where the walls are and where the doors might be. Without them, you're trapped in a maze, stumbling in the dark. With them, you see patterns, paths, and possibilities. Even happiness is tied to explanations. When you're unhappy and you don't know why, you're stuck. But when you can explain your unhappiness, I'm chasing validation instead of fulfillment, or I'm living by someone else's values, you suddenly have agency. You can correct course. That self-explanation is the beginning of freedom from suffering. Explanations don't come from passive absorption. They come from active curiosity. You don't get them by memorizing, but by questioning, why is this true? How does this connect? What would happen if it didn't work this way? Each time you build an explanation, you gain a piece of freedom. You free yourself from ignorance, from dependence, from fear. The deepest form of freedom is intellectual independence. When you can explain the world in your own words, you're no longer manipulated by propaganda, by trends, by authority figures claiming to have the answers. You listen, you consider, but you filter everything through your own understanding. That is sovereignty of the mind. So freedom is not in wealth or fame or power. Those are just outcomes. Freedom lies in understanding the mechanisms that create them, and understanding is built by explanations. If you want to be free, don't just memorize facts, create explanations. Don't just accept rules, understand them. Don't just follow maps, learn how to draw them. Explanations give you the power to navigate life on your own terms. They turn randomness into order, suffering into growth, tradition into wisdom. They are the engine of progress, the foundation of knowledge, and the source of true freedom. When you can explain the world, you are no longer trapped by it. You're free.